The Enneagram is a personality tool that describes 9 different patterns of thinking, feeling, and acting. And it's important to kind of keep in mind, none of these 9 ways of being are better or worse than another, but each is based on perceptions and filters that tend to explain what are the sorts of things that we pay attention to. How do we direct our energy? What's going on in the world with us and with the people around us? So take, for example, maybe you're the type of person that likes to make specific and achievable lists. And maybe you do that often. Maybe your partner is the type of person that likes to make a list in their head on the day that they're going to be working, and maybe the list gets longer and longer and feels completely unachievable to you. Or maybe in another example, maybe you are the type of person that likes to make a loose plan and then go for it. Make adjustments as you go. While maybe you have a coworker who prefers something different, something quite a bit more detailed. Be ready to go. Have considered all the possible pitfalls before you started. Something like that. Or maybe in a relational capacity, you believe in smoothing things over. You're the type of person who likes to ease relational tension. But maybe you have a friend who likes to meet every relational situation head on, meet it with truth, be right there, face to face with it. Whichever one of these might feel like, ooh, that's totally me. Again, none of these are necessarily better or worse. They're just different. And we may well have developed these ways of being in our lives sort of slowly over the course of time through our developmental years. And usually we developed this way in order to feel safe. This became a priority for each and every one of us. And so knowing this about ourselves, kind of knowing what's my energy, what really drives me, these kinds of things, that can help us understand ourselves. It can help us understand the people around us, which can mean better relationships. And so today we're going to dive in for sort of a quick overview of the Enneagram. We'll walk very quickly through each of the 9 types. We'll share some of the upsides, some of the downsides and the struggles for each of those types. And should you find yourself wanting more, wanting to know more about it, there are so many resources. So do feel free to check the description for more resources, and I'll talk a bit more about that later on. But for now, we will start with the type 1s, also known as the perfectionists and the reformers. So our perfectionists, they tend to feel a very strong need to be perfect, to do things well, and not necessarily in all arenas of life. And this becomes really important. There's often specific areas where this need comes into play. And so as children, our ones may well have learned that you earn love, and you earn it by meeting expectation. You earn love by being good. And so maybe they strove to be that really good person. And this has caused them over the time in their lives to really long for a world of truth and a world of justice and of moral order. Again, to do things the right way, to have a sense of what is the proper order of things. This creates this desire to live in very integrous ways. So every one friend that I know has a very exceptional moral compass. They really think about, am I doing things in an up and up sort of a fashion or not? And helpfully, this means that when we are working with each other, our ones are bringing dignity and discernment to the table. They are thinking about it. How should this go? Also, in my experience, very amazing spreadsheets or forms or something like that. My one friends know how to put together a very good form. But kind of going back to this need to feel like they are a good person, the big fear is that maybe we're going to be a bad person. We're going to act in a poor way. And so all this energy goes into not being a bad person, which means our ones, they tend to hold themselves to some impossibly high standards. And so the growth edge, if that is our story, is that we're trying to learn, okay, maybe there's not only one right way of doing things. Maybe it's possible that this is a way that I have discerned, and that a way that another person discerns also gets them to a good path, a moral path. But again, that struggle bus can leave them feeling kind of judgmental and not really wanting to compromise because they've thought it through. They really have a sense this is a good way to go. And so my personal advice to anyone who is the friend of a 1 is to do whatever you can not to criticize your 1 friends, because our 1 friends are already being judgmental towards themselves. They're already thinking about this stuff. And so when we heap our criticism on our 1s, it's just really hard for them. So conversations, yes, but in as gentle of ways as is humanly possible. We move on then to our type 2s, who are often called the helper or the giver. And our helpers and givers in the world, their strong need is to be needed, for people to want their help and want them to be around. And this could very well have derived from things that they experienced in childhood. Maybe they felt like, I don't get noticed unless I make myself useful. And so they rose to the occasion again and again to feel needed, to be useful, and therefore receive love, because that primary desire is really to be loved, to be well liked. Do you see me? Do you like me? Am I well liked and loved by you? And so very helpfully in the world, they tend to function as natural caregivers, nurturers, people working with other people, seeing the heart and scooping it up and being there for people. But on the other side of that, there is a fear that is driving at the same time. This feeling of being unworthy of love, that I have to keep doing in order to keep earning your love, keep getting your love. And this can create all kinds of animosity within themselves. Like, I do all this work, and does anybody appreciate me? And do they see what's happening? And so the growth edge for the 2 is really to free themselves from all this false intimacy, because it starts to feel a little bit like being a doormat, right? And so we don't want that for our 2 friends at all. And they can't help it, but that struggle bus causes them to kind of manipulate the situation kind of towards selfish gains, because that background statement is, do I feel loved? Do you love me? Do you like me? And so there can be a little bit of manipulation and getting close when really all they just wanted was to experience relationship and connection. And so my personal advice to friends of 2s, if you know that you have a 2 friend and they are doing stuff for you, thank them with everything you have. And whatever you do, don't always say yes to your 2 friends, because they cannot help but offer to help you sometimes. And so sometimes maybe like just offer them your love and your care without taking on their help, and maybe sometimes like scratch their back a little bit, right? Give a little bit back to our 2s. Moving on then to our type 3s. Our type 3s are called performers or the achiever. And our big theme for our 3s is the strong need within is to feel successful, and not always in the ways that you might think. It could be at work, it could be at home. There are many ways in which one might pursue that feeling of success. But as children, 3s tended to internalize all the praise and the rewards. It got exciting to find out I can do something, and in return, I get praise and rewards. And so there's all this meaning that is found in success and achievements. Look what I'm doing. Look what I'm doing. And so this desire is really the core of it all, is to feel valuable. And in fact, for a 3, a great phrase for a 3 might be, you are enough, right? You don't have to do in order to be valuable. But helpfully speaking, People can love a 3, right? On a team, they are committed, they are hardworking, resourceful, they bring all this energy. You're gonna often hear people say to the 3, like, how do you do it all? I don't know how you get so much done. And so there they are, they're bringing all that energy, but remember, it is driven by a core fear. I don't want to be worthless. I don't want to feel like a failure. So there's a script that's always running. How do I bring that image to the table? How do I turn things that feel like failure into success? This kind of a thing, which means that there is a growth edge for the 3 as well. And a lot of it has to do with feelings. The 3 is so busy that those feelings tend to get pushed down a little bit, moved beyond the surface because they get in the way. So you might say to a 3, oh, how are you doing today? They will literally tell you, this is what I am doing today. If you're a really wise person, you might kind of push and look for the feeling there, but they might not be able to tell you because they really need that still space in order to find those feelings. So the struggle bus for the 3 is really this experience of becoming still and finding that place where they don't feel like they need to cover up those flaws, where they don't have to overemphasize the positive. They can just be who they are. And so my advice to people who know 3s is to just kind of give them a little bit of love and compliment their efforts. They will go so far on a compliment. They will ride that compliment for days, months. Just give your 3s a compliment. Moving on then to our type 4s, the artist, the romantic. And you almost have to kind of change your position, right? If our 2 was arms out and our 3 was so perfectly poised, our 4 has a little bit more drama to them. And that primary need is to be special. And so as children, they may have had this feeling at some point of kind of getting kicked out of the nest, of being pointed out as being different, or maybe even as being maybe there's something wrong here. And so often there's this desire to be seen for their authentic self. I'm not wrong. I just have a way of being, and I want you to see it, and I want you to embrace it. So see me in all of my authenticness and all of my genuineness, and let me express it to you as uniquely as I possibly can. So the desire here is really to express the depth of the emotion, and 4s have so much emotion that they're capable of feeling, and what's more, that they're capable of sitting with others and feeling as well. And they have this strong desire to show uniqueness. Let me show it to you through my talents. And so it could be dress, or it could be some other artistic thing, but helpfully our 4s tend to be wonderfully sensitive people. They're just so good at feeling for another person. If there's a tragedy, they are capable of sitting in the middle of that, whereas some might kind of shy away. And they're also so creative and imaginative and again, empathetic. But again, we want to be aware of the fear that can drive it. And that fear is, I really want to genuinely be able to express myself, and I want to feel like you accept me as I express myself genuinely. And so there's a growth edge here for the 4 of kind of finding a realistic space to sit in, like how much is realistic for others to go with us into all of these feelings. And if I am getting a little internal with my feelings, can I reach outside of myself and be present with the wide, wide world? When we're in our healthy state, we are able to do that. But again, we want to be aware that there is a struggle bus there, right? That tendency to be a bit temperamental, to be a bit self-absorbed, and really struggle to kind of be a part of that larger community experience. So kind of holding it all in tension. It's what we're doing with all of the types. My advice to friends of 4s, though, is really to listen to them, because they, especially if you're a person that struggles with feelings and struggles to see things, they will help you see things that you were not able to see before. They will help you feel things that you may have repressed so far deep within yourself. So if you kind of give an ear to them, they can really bring out some special things in you and in the world. And they're going to do it so naturally, just expressing their authentic self. We move on then to our type 5s, our thinkers, the investigators. And here we have a really strong need to be perceptive. So oftentimes the 5 is described as this person that likes to kind of be alone and taking in information and kind of being in the ivory tower, so to speak. So often in their thoughts and really happy there. It is not lonely to be with their thoughts. And there are various schools of thought about how this has come to be. So as children, maybe they received not as much tenderness as they needed, and maybe that caused a bit of a withdrawal. Or maybe the family felt a little intrusive or overwhelming, or something else in life felt intrusive or overwhelming, and so there was this desire to withdraw a little bit to an interior world, a safer world, and to kind of learn how things work and really get a sense of things. So with our 5s, the strong desire there is to be competent, to not be caught unknowing, but to really be able to, I know this, I know that, be in it. And helpfully, that makes them thoughtful and insightful. They're often able to synergize all these things that they're learning and come up with really great insights. They're observant and very fair-minded because they've taken in all the information. But there is a fear there as well. And that kind of ends up being this fear of being useless in day-to-day life. What is my life worth in that sense? How am I contributing from a day-to-day? What am I supposed to do with all of this knowledge? And so there's a couple of growth edges for our 5s. For one, again, we have that kind of repressed emotional experience at times. And so the 5, when they're doing well and they're maturing and they're growing, they're able to express more of those emotions that are sitting within. And also, they're able to kind of share more of that knowledge, not just take it in, but then turn it back out and give it as a gift to the world. But we want to keep in mind that for our 5s, that struggle bus is really that feeling of, am I receiving fulfillment? Is this life doing what I want it to do in that fulfilling sense? Am I happy? Does my life have meaning and purpose? What is meaning and purpose? All of these sorts of things. And so my advice to people who have friends that are 5s, assume that they are dancing on the inside. I have a 5 friend who once, I had another friend, a totally different number, who was just dancing it up. And my 5 friend was really struggling to be in that kind of an outward emotional space. And my 5 friend said, I'm dancing on the inside. And I thought, that is perfect. It kind of explains, like, I am with you. I'm just really struggling to get it out on the outside, or I just would never do what you're doing right now. So kind of assume that your 5 friends, that they're dancing on the inside. They are with you. Moving on to our type 6s. These are our loyalists, the skeptic, if you will. And the strong need driving our 6s is the need to be secure, to feel secure. And this can look like all kinds of things, but generally speaking, my 6 friends, they have planned for the worst case scenario. They've thought it all out. They're very good at reading faces, or at least trying to read faces, and kind of having this intuitive sense about the world around them. And this, again, that childhood experience, so they may have had protective figures in their lives that just weren't able to care for them well. And so maybe at that early age, they started doing some of these things in order to feel safe, because that core drive, that core desire is to have that sense of certainty and safety and acceptance. And helpfully, how they show up in the world tends to be just devoted, reliable team players that are so warm-hearted. So that loyalty aspect, I am with you through thick and thin, and I am with you in a smiling sort of a way. I will be there. But the fear that's behind all of that is to be without support, that maybe this stuff is not quite in play that needs to be in play. So there is a growth edge for the 6, as there is for all of us, which is to take responsibility for the ways in which all of that shows up in myself as anxiety, if you will. Right? So I have these feelings, I have this life, and maybe I am projecting a feeling onto you. Maybe that's not your feeling. Maybe that's my projection of a feeling. And to sort of own that instead of always working in a projection sense. Because that struggle bus for the 6 is this anxiety and self-doubting experience. Both of themselves, did I get that right? Am I doing it right? And of others. Do you like me? Was that a funny face that you made? Does that mean anything? All of this concern. And so I tend to have a sense of advice for my 6 friends, people that are friends of 6s as well, which is offer up a clear plan. When you know you've got a 6 friend, you know that they have calculated and that they're really good at that. And so to kind of put their mind at ease, show them your thought process, show them the plan. And if you really don't have one and you need one, ask a 6 to help you because they're amazing at it. Moving on then to our type 7s. Our 7s are the enthusiasts and the optimists. And the core need of our type 7s here is to be happy. Sometimes we call that to be pain-free. And this could have come from any number of experiences. As children, they may well have felt cut off from their nurture, that somehow maybe there just wasn't enough love to go around. Or maybe there just wasn't enough time to have fun. Because really what ends up happening with our 7s is the desire there is for stimulation, to experience more, to learn more. It's always the new experience, the next relationship, the next thing to know. And so there's kind of a jack of all trades quality about our 7s. They're just so energetic and inquisitive about all of it. And helpfully, this makes them cheerful, so people often enjoy their company. They're quick learners because they're just soaking it in. They are innovative, right? All of that learning allows them to make a few connections and boom, they're adaptable. They can solve problems, just really amazing. But we want to keep in mind, especially if we are the 7, this fear of being deprived, this fear of feeling our anxiety, fear of feeling our pain, fear of missing out is often driving us. And when that is driving us, it can sometimes cause us to drop things that we initially committed to and now we've lost interest because we want to go do something else. And so the growth edge here is to kind of learn to stop creating our own happiness all of the time, to stop avoiding the pain. The growth edge is to be able to sit in the midst of some of the difficult. And it's a struggle because as we are trying to get excited about the next thing and not feel bored and experience all that stimulation, it can leave this unfocused quality to our experiences. It can seem a little bit erratic. And a lot of that is coming from like, I just don't want to be limited, right? Don't put your limits on me. But there is this possibility for the 7 to take it all in and give it to the world. And so my advice to friends of 7s is call them if and when you are struggling with giving yourself something that you need. If you are in a self-depriving mood, go call your 7 friends. Let's say, maybe you've got a hairdryer and it's 25 years old and it throws flames even when you turn it on. But why spend the money? Because you're all in deprivation mode. Call your 7 friend. Your 7 friend will help you, will tell you how much you deserve that new hairdryer that does not throw flames at you. Moving on to our type 8s. Our type 8s are often called the challenger or the leader. And the driving force is often said that there is a need to be against, to go against the system where it is unjust, this type of a thing. And so as children, often there was this need to protect and provide for others at a young age. Something helped them learn, like, what does it mean for fairness to exist? And why are some people being treated unfairly? And that should not be. And so there's a desire to protect, to be strong, and to be in control, right? To be in that driver's seat. And this has a lot of meaningful uses. Helpfully, we see these energetic people who come with all of this justice seeking, reminding of us of what is good and helpful. And they're so courageous, able to say what none of us were able to say. So assertive. At the right moment, even if it felt a little bit awkward and nobody else would say it, boom, they are out with it. The thing that needed to be said in a very reassuring way. But remember, the fear is I don't want to be controlled, right? And if I don't want to be controlled, then my counter is to stay in control. And so there's a growth edge for the 8 of kind of utilizing all this power that they're able to wield and offering it up to help others, to protect others, not to control them. And it could go either way, right? Because we finally have this ability and we can start using it to make sure we've got the upper hand, or we can use it for the greater good. Also, learning to apologize and admit mistakes, because again, we had to put up that facade. We had to be in control. We had to protect. And so it can feel a little bit weak to admit mistakes. But the more that our 8 is able to do that, the easier relationship can be. And so again, we're looking at that struggle bus. Where and why is it so hard? There's this desire to feel like they are in control. And so I do have advice for those who are friends of 8s. And that is, if things get hairy, if you are with your 8 friend and 5 things have gone wrong, they are out of place in ways that they should not be, but you know that you've got it, that you can see the end result and this is going to be okay. Share that with your 8 friend, because your 8 friend is ready to step in and take charge. Your 8 friend is living in a little bit of anxiety right now. So share with them. I see that some things have gone differently than we planned. It is okay. Here's why it's okay. And if you can't do that, if you truly need someone to like step in and take charge, utilize your 8 friend. They'll be great. They can do it for you. And then finally, we have our type 9, the peacemaker, the mediator. The 9. There's a strong need with our 9s to be at peace, right? For there to be this sense of harmony. And this could have come about because of all kinds of reasons. As a child, maybe family life felt a little bit overwhelming. Maybe there was this person felt that and this person felt that. But our 9 can truly see both people's point of view. So maybe there was this desire for reconciliation, or maybe there was a feeling of being overlooked or neglected, kind of just standing here watching all the pieces, if you will. And so the desire oftentimes for the 9 is to experience harmony, for everybody to kind of enjoy this relational experience, to see one another's point of view, to settle amicably and helpfully. Not only are they easygoing, just really fun to be with, they're amazing peacemakers because they're so accepting. Like, I see your point of view. They're so fair and honest. And they just do that so well in our world. But there is a fear that is at play, as there is with all of us. And for the 9, the fear is loss of connection, that somehow we won't appreciate each other. And it'll kind of blow things up and make the world not as great. And this can create a lot of stress for the 9 on the inside. And so the growth edge, as they are working through all of that internal feeling, we want to keep in mind that they are also part of, and we'll talk about this in a minute, a group that can easily become angry, but the 9 keeps that anger buried quite a bit deeper. So that cynicism within the 9 tends to sit quietly under the surface. So overcoming that secret cynicism and then learning to act and focus energy becomes another big deal with the 9, because as the 9 experiences that stress in life, it tends to make them kind of want to sit down. So some people call it sloth-like, but really it's this, I feel too stressed out to make a decision. This is too stressful. If I pick this, it's going to mess you up, and I don't want to do any of that. And so rather than make a decision, I'm just completely undecided. That struggle bus, right? It leaves them feeling timid and this desire to shrink back and just be real unable to make a decision. And so my advice to friends of 9s, don't push your 9 friend, because the harder that you push, the harder it is for them to make a decision. They need a little bit of space to see it through a little bit. So that is my advice to people who are friends with 9s. So having said all of that, we have these 9 types, but as it turns out, nobody is a pure anything, even though there's 9 of them. And so maybe you've listened to these and you thought, well, I saw a bit of myself here and I saw a bit of myself there. That's totally normal, because there are these things called Enneagram wings and Enneagram arrows. So to start with the Enneagram wings, because no one is a pure personality type, everybody is a unique mixture of their own basic type and then one of the wings right next to them, adjacent to their number. So if you are an 8, you may have a 9 wing, or you may have a 7 wing. If you're a 3, you may have a 4 wing, or you may have a 2 wing. And so that first number, that's your dominant, your overall personality. The wing is a complement. It adds on to the elements of your personality. So say you are a 3 on the Enneagram. Your desire is to be successful, right? To achieve, to not look like a failure. If I move to that 4, I might want to do that in super unique ways. I might explore my emotion. If I'm doing that as a 2 wing, I might take all that success and try to be really helpful with other people. So it could go either way. In a similar way, we have these things called arrows, places that we go under stress and places that we go when we're at peace, when we're feeling some inner strength. And so again, say that I'm a 3 on the Enneagram. If I am feeling healthy, things are going well, I'm not feeling particularly threatened, I'm going to take all that success stuff that I love and I'm going to go to 6. I'm going to give it to the world. I'm going to put all that energy into somebody else. Let me help you become successful in achieving. Let me be a cheerleader for you. But say that I'm feeling really stressed out as a 3. I'm going to go to 9. So you're telling me all these things and I cannot make a decision to save my life. I'm going to take all that energy and I'm going to put it into things that don't maybe matter as much. So maybe the administrative tasks, busy tasks, just something. So I'll still be doing things, but in a more sluggish way. It's not in my usual achieving way. So we kind of have that. Once we've got our pure type, we also have our wings and our arrows, which is causing us to draw from like 4 other places on the Enneagram. And then one other thing to talk about, we have these other groupings, kind of larger groupings of head, body, and heart. And body can also be called gut. And so each of those, head, body, and heart, gets 3 of the personality types, and they're always close to one another. And so say that we are a 5, a 6, or a 7. Our 5s, our 6s, and our 7s rely on thinking in order to feel safe in the world. They are using all that they learn and all that they take in, utilizing, rationalizing, and clarifying ideas. That is what brings sanity and order and a sense of understanding. So that's our thinking types. Then we have our 2s, 3s, and 4s, our heart centers. And they tend to really rely on relationship, authenticity, image, all of these connection type things, because that sense of connection increases their sense of meaning, their sense of purpose. They're utilizing their feelings. When you said this, it felt right. I just felt it in my heart, this kind of a thing. And then our 8, 9s, and 1s, our body types or our gut types, if you will. And these body types have a strong need to take action, and it shows up differently in each personality. But that desire to be treated with respect, it's basically like breathing air. See me, hear me, appreciate me in this respectful way. And they take that very seriously. So there's so much more that you could say. Again, this is a super fast overview of the Enneagram. Should you like to learn more, there will be links in the description, but you could go all kinds of places. You could just Google the Enneagram. You would find articles for days, websites for days. One of those websites, the Enneagram Institute. You can find tests, workshops, things to read, lots of great information at the EnneagramInstitute.com. If you are a podcast person, I have a good friend who runs a podcast on the Enneagram called The Art of Growth. He interviews tons of people from all these different personalities. They talk about it topically. How does this show up in, partner relationships, work relationships, relationships with kids, the whole gamut. So if you're a podcaster, totally great option. And then every book that I've ever written on the Enneagram, I will include. There are more than this, and others would recommend other books, but these are the ones that I have read. The Enneagram by Helen Palmer, The Essential Enneagram by David A. Daniels and Virginia Price, and The Enneagram, A Christian Perspective by Richard Rohr and Andreas Ebert. And I like them all equally. So hopefully this is a helpful overview for you. Thank you so much for being with me. Hopefully we'll get to see each other in one way or another sometime soon. See you later.